Rain hammered the metal roof like a thousand angry fists. Owen Bridger wiped the mud from his boots and stepped onto his porch, grateful to be home after checking the fence line. The storm had rolled in faster than the weather reports predicted, turning his small farm into a swamp within an hour. He shook water from his jacket and reached for the door handle. Something massive breathed behind him. Owen froze. His hand dropped to the rifle he kept by the door, but he did not grab it yet. Slowly, he turned around through the sheets of rain. He could barely make out the shape sprawled across the far end of his porch. It was huge, easily the size of his storage shed. Blue scales gleamed in the lightning flashes. Wings torn and bleeding lay crumpled against a body covered in deep cuts. The creature's chest rose and fell in labored breaths. A dragon, an actual dragon on his porch. Owen had seen him in documentaries about dangerous worlds. The colony warnings mentioned them as threats to livestock. Stay away. The pamphlet said, do not approach. Report immediately to colonial security. These creatures were unpredictable, violent remnants from primitive planets that somehow survived into the space age. Dragon's eyes opened slightly. They were silver bright, even in the darkness. They found Owen and held his gaze. There was no aggression in them, no threat, just exhaustion and pain. Owen made his decision in 3 seconds. He grabbed his medical kit from inside and a bucket of clean water. The dragon watched him approach but did not move. Up close, the injuries looked worse. Claw marks ran across the creature's side. Burns marked the wing membranes. Something had hurt this animal badly. Easy now, Owen said quietly. He did not know if the dragon understood words, but tone usually worked with any animal. I'm going to help you. All right, just stay still. The dragon's eyes closed slowly, as if accepting his offer. Owen began cleaning the wounds with steady hands. He had patched up plenty of livestock over the years. The principles were the same, even if the scale was different. He used an entire bottle of disinfectant on the deeper cuts and wrapped what he could with bandages. The dragon flinched occasionally, but never pulled away. There we go, Owen muttered, more to himself than the creature. You'll need antibiotics too, I think. He went back inside and returned with veterinary medicine. The dragon's mouth opened slightly when he approached. Owen poured the liquid in carefully. Bitter stuff. I know, but it'll help. By the time he finished, the storm had intensified. Wind held across the fields. Lightning split the sky every few seconds. Owen looked at the dragon, then at his door. The creature was too large to fit inside, and moving it would likely cause more damage. He grabbed a blanket from his closet and layered them over the dragon's body. It was not much, but it would keep some heat in. Owen pulled a chair from his kitchen and sat down beside the creature. If it took a turn for the worse during the night, he wanted to be there. Wonder what you were running from, he said aloud. Dragon's eye opened again, focusing on him. Owen found himself talking more. This is Thornwood Ridge human colony. Pretty far from most shipping lanes. We grow grain here, mostly boring work, but honest, not many visitors this far out. The dragon made a low sound, almost like a rumble, not aggressive, more like acknowledgement. You understand me? Owen leaned forward. The dragon blinked slowly. Well, I'll be damned. You're smarter than the reports say, aren't you? The night stretched on. Owen dozed in his chair while the storm raged. Every hour he checked the dragons, breathing and reapplied ointment to the worst wounds. The creature never complained, never snapped at him. It simply watched with those intelligent, silver eyes whenever Owen moved close. Dawn came gray and wet. The storm had passed, leaving mud and broken branches everywhere. Owen stood and stretched his sore back. The dragon was still, breathing steadily. Its color looked better, less pale around the edges of the scales. Morning, Owen said. He fetched fresh water and food. The dragon drank deeply but ignored the food. Not hungry yet, that's fine. Rest is what you need most anyway. A vehicle approached on the main road. Owen recognized the sound of Harry Patterson's truck, his nearest neighbor, a man who enjoyed gossip more than farming. The truck slowed as it passed Owen's property. Harry's face appeared in the window, eyes wide as he spotted the dragon. Owen waved casually as if having a massive dragon on his porch was completely normal. Harry's truck sped up and disappeared down the road. Within an hour, Owen's communicator started buzzing with messages. He ignored them all. Looks like you're going to be famous around here, Owen told the dragon. Don't worry about it. Let them talk. You're safe on this porch until you're ready to leave. The dragon's tail moved slightly, curling closer to its body. If Owen did not know better, he would say the creature looked grateful. He settled back in his chair and picked up a book from inside. If he was going to keep watch over a wounded dragon, he might as well be comfortable about it. Teed up midday. 3 more vehicles had slowed down a stair. Owen's communicator had 17 unread messages and 5 missed calls. He deleted them all without looking and made himself lunch. He brought an extra plate outside and set it near the dragon just in case. Dragon watched him eat. Its breathing had improved significantly. The wounds were closing faster than Owen expected. Maybe dragons healed quicker than regular animals. That would be useful. You know, Owen said between bites, people are going to have questions. Colonial security will probably show up eventually, but I figure that's tomorrow's problem. Today you're just a patient who needs rest. The dragon made that rumbling sound again. Owen smiled and continued eating. Whatever happened next, he had done the right thing. His mother always taught him that kindness did not need a reason. You helped those who needed it. Simple as that. Did not matter if they were human, animal, or something in between. The afternoon sun broke through the clouds, warming the porch. The dragon scales seemed to glow in the light, each one reflecting shades of blue Owen had never seen before. Beautiful, really dangerous too. Probably, but beautiful nonetheless. Owen finished his lunch and leaned back in his chair. The dragon's eyes were closed now, breathing deep and even. Finally getting real sleep instead of the pained unconsciousness from before. Good, that meant the medicine was working, that he would deal with the questions tomorrow. Tonight he had a patient to watch over. 3 days passed since the dragon arrived. Owen named him Blue, though he suspected the creature already had a name of its own. The wounds were healing remarkably well. Blue could stand now, even walk a few steps before tiring. The torn wing membranes showed signs of mending, though flying was still weeks away at best. Owen discovered something interesting on the second morning. He had been fixing a broken section of fence when Blue approached, moving carefully on still tender legs. Dragon watched Owen struggle with a heavy post for a moment, then reached out with one massive claw and lifted it effortlessly into place. Owen stared at the dragon, then at the perfectly positioned post. "Well, that's handy," he said. Blue made a sound that might have been amusement. From that point forward, they worked together. Blue could not do delicate tasks, but anything requiring strength became easy. A fallen tree that would have taken Owen days to clear, Blue dragged it to the side in minutes. Rocks that needed moving for the new irrigation channel. Blue placed them exactly where Owen pointed. The dragon seemed to understand instructions after hearing them just once. The colonial authorities finally showed up on the fourth day. 2 security officers in a ground vehicle, looking nervous as they approached the porch where Blue lay resting. Owen met them at the property line with his arms crossed. Mr. Bridger, the taller officer, said his name. Tag read Stevens. "We need to talk about the creature you're harboring." "Blue isn't being harbored," Owen replied. "He's recovering from injuries." "Big difference." "It's a dragon, sir. They're classified as dangerous wildlife. Protocol requires removal or elimination." "Blue hasn't hurt anyone. In fact, he's been helping around the farm. Seems pretty peaceful to me." Officer Stevens glanced at his partner nervously. Blue had raised his head and was watching the conversation with interest. "Sir, we have regulations. Dragons are unpredictable. It could turn violent at any moment. So could my neighbor's dog, but nobody's demanding I shoot it." Owen kept his voice level but firm. "Blue stays until he's healed enough to leave on his own. That's final." The officers left without pushing further, but Owen knew they would be back. News traveled fast in small colonies. By evening, his communicator was flooded with messages again. Half the colony thought he was insane. The other half was curious about the dragon that apparently did farm work. Harry Patterson drove by twice that week, slowing down each time gawk. On his second pass, Owen waved him over. "One. Meet Blue properly," Owen called out. Harry hesitated but pulled into the driveway. He stayed in his truck until Owen walked over. "That thing really safe? Come see for yourself." Reluctantly, Harry followed Owen to the porch. Blue watched the new human approach but did not move from his resting spot. Owen gestured to the dragon. "Blue, this is Harry." "Harry." Blue inclined his head slightly, gesture so deliberately polite that Harry laughed nervously. "I'll be damned. It's like he knows what we're saying." "I think he does," Owen said. He had been thinking about this for days. The way Blue responded to complex instructions, the problem-solving abilities, the clear understanding in those silver eyes. This was not just an intelligent animal. This was something more. Harry reached out slowly and touched one of Blue's scales. The dragon remained perfectly still, allowing the contact. "Warm," Harry said. "Surprised? I thought reptiles were cold-blooded." Blue's full of surprises. Word spread after Harry's visit. A few more neighbors stopped by, their fear gradually replaced by curiosity. Blue tolerated the attention with patience, though Owen could tell the dragon preferred quieter moments. In the evenings after the visitors left, Blue and Owen would sit on the porch together. Owen would talk about his life, his work, the reason he chose farming on a distant colony. Blue would listen, occasionally making soft sounds that felt like responses. On the seventh day, something changed. Owen woke to find Blue standing in the yard. Staring at the sky, the dragon's posture was tense, alert. Owen stepped outside. With his coffee, something wrong. Blue's eyes flicked to Owen, then back to the sky. A low growl rumbled from deep in the dragon's chest, not aggressive toward Owen, but a warning of something else. Owen followed the dragon's gaze upward, but saw nothing except morning clouds. The communicator on Owen's belt chirped. He answered it to find Stephen and LT Unk and GT's voice more urgent than before. Mr. Bridger, we have a situation. Long-range sensors detected multiple ships entering the system. Large vessels. They're broadcasting a language we've never heard before. The transmission includes images of dragons. Owen looked at Blue. The dragon met his eyes with an expression that was almost apologetic. They're looking for him, aren't they? Unknown, sir, but the fleet is heading toward Thornwood Ridge. Colonial government wants all civilians to shelter in place, and they want you to secure that dragon immediately. I'm not putting Blue in a cage, sir. If those ships are hostile, then we'll deal with it when they arrive. Blue isn't going anywhere. Owen disconnected the call before Stevens could argue further. Blue had not moved. The dragon continued watching the sky, waiting for something. Owen set his coffee down and stood beside the massive creature. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. Friends of yours? Owen asked quietly. Bloom made a complex sound, part growl, part something else. If Owen had a guess, he would say it meant something like complicated. The day passed slowly. Owen tried to work, but his eyes kept drifting to the sky. Blue remained vigilant, barely eating or resting. As afternoon turned to evening, Colonial emergency broadcast began, instructing all residents to stay indoors. The alien fleet had reached orbit and was holding position above the settlement. That Owen's communicator buzzed constantly with evacuation orders and warnings. He ignored them all. Blue had moved back to the porch, settling into a defensive posture, not threatening but ready. Owen grabbed his rifle from inside, knowing it would be useless against spaceships, but feeling better armed nonetheless. You know, Owen said, settling into his chair beside Blue. I've had quieter weeks. Blue made that amused sound again. Despite the tension, despite the massive alien fleet overhead, the dragon seemed calmer now, as if Owen's presence provided some comfort. Owen felt the same way about Blue. Strange how quickly you could bond with someone, human or otherwise, when circumstances demanded trust. Lights appeared in the sky as the sun set, not stars but something else. Shapes descended through the atmosphere, glowing with re-entry heat. They were coming down fast, heading directly for Owen's farm. Blue stood spreading his damaged wings as far as they could go. The gesture was protective, placing himself between Owen and the incoming ships. Owen chambered around in his rifle, more out of habit than any real hope it would matter. Well, he said calmly, here we go. The ships landed in his fields, crushing unharvested grain beneath their bulk. There were sleek vessels scaled like Blue, but metallic, clearly built for war. Hatches opened and figures emerged. More dragons, dozens of them, each one armored and armed with weapons Owen did not recognize. They surrounded the porch in a wide circle, their eyes locked on Blue. One step forward, larger than they rest, wearing elaborate armor that marked him as a leader. The dragon spoke in a language of clicks and growls. Blue responded in the same tongue, his voice weaker but no less authoritative. The conversation went back and forth for several minutes while Owen stood there, rifle lowered, completely lost. Finally, the armored dragon turned to Owen. When it spoke, the words came through a translator device on its collar. The voice was deep and rumbling, filled with barely contained anger. Human, you have our commander. Release him now or your colony burns. Owen kept his rifle pointed at the ground, but his finger stayed near the trigger, surrounded by armed dragons with a fleet overhead, threatening his entire colony. He forced himself to stay calm. Blue remained between him and the armored dragon, wings still spread despite the obvious pain it caused. Release, Owen said, finding his voice. Blue isn't my prisoner. He's been recovering here. He can leave whenever he wants. Armored dragon's eyes narrowed. Our commander does not visit human colonies. He does not stay on primitive farms. You're holding him here somehow. Release him now, your commander. Owen looked at Blue. The dragon met his gaze with those silver eyes, and Owen understood. Blue was not just intelligent. Blue was their leader. He showed up wounded on my porch during a storm. I helped him. That's all lies. Humans do not help dragons. Humans fear us or try to exploit us. Blue made a sharp sound, silencing the armored dragon. The two had another exchange in their clicking language. The armored one's posture shifted from aggressive to confused. Blue kept talking, gesturing toward Owen with one claw, then toward the house and farm, explaining something. The other dragons listened, their weapons lowering slightly. Finally, the armored dragon turned back to Owen. Commander Devin says, you gave him shelter, medicine, food. Asked for nothing in return. That's right. Why? Owen shrugged. He was hurt. Needed help. What kind of person would I be if I just left him there? The question seemed to confuse the dragon more than threaten him. You did not know who he was, not until about 30 seconds ago. Devin spoke again, his tone firm and commanding despite his weakened state. The armored dragon straightened to attention. Whatever Devin said, it was clearly in order. The other dragons began backing away slowly, creating space around the porch. Commander Devin wishes to remain here until fully healed, the translator announced, though the dragon speaking sounded extremely unhappy about it. He says you're to be protected, not threatened. Any dragon who harms you or this colony will answer to him personally. Owen processed that information. He want to stay even though you're here to pick him up, apparently. The dragon sounded bitter. I am General Torin, leader of the Skyward Covenant military. I have spent 7 days searching every world in this sector for our commander, and I find him on a human porch being fed soup. It was stew. Actually, Owen corrected, better for healing. Torvin's eyes flashed with annoyance, but he held his tongue. Devin made another sound, something that might have been dragon laughter. Several of the other dragons shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure how to handle this situation. The fleet will remain in orbit, Torin declared. I will station guard around this property for the commander's protection. No need, Owens said. Blue has been safe here for over a week without guards. Nevertheless, Devin cut him off with a sharp bark. Torvin's jaw clenched, but he bowed his head. As you command, the fleet will withdraw to high orbit, but I will stay personally to ensure your safety. You can stay if Blue wants you here, Owen said, looking at Devin. This is still my property, though my rules apply, poor Vin. Translated, Devin's response made the general growl low in his throat. Commander Devin agrees. He says your home, your authority, good first rule is no weapons on the porch. If you want to visit, leave the guns in your ship. Absolutely not. I am responsible for. Devin interrupted again more forcefully. This time, Torvin argued back in their language. The exchange grew heated, with Devin's voice gaining strength as he defended his decision. Finally, Torvin threw up his claws in frustration and stalked away, barking orders to the other dragons. They boarded their ships and lifted off, leaving only Torvin behind. The general removed his armor and weapons with obvious reluctance, piling them near his ship. When he returned to the porch, he was still imposing but less threatening. Owen gestured to an empty chair. Coffee. I do not drink human beverages. Soothe yourself. Owen sat down and poured himself a cup from the pot he had brought outside. Devin settled back into his resting spot with a satisfied rumble. The tension bled out of his posture now that his people had left. Torvin remained standing, watching Owen with suspicion. What do you want from Commander Devin? Money, technology, political favors. I wanted to heal up so he can go home healthy, Owen said. Simply, same thing I wanted when he first arrived. That is all. That's all. Torvin sat down slowly, as if the chair might be a trap. You truly expect me to believe you harbor no ulterior motive? Believe what you want. I'm just a farmer who helps someone in need. Owen sipped his coffee. Though I'm curious about one thing. What happened to him? Those wounds looked like he'd been in a serious fight. Torvin glanced at Devin, who made a permissive gesture. Assassination attempt. Political rivals within the Covenant tried to eliminate the commander during a diplomatic mission. They ambushed his shuttle, destroyed his escort ships. He barely escaped. Politics, Owen said with disgust. Same problems everywhere. I guess even in space the commander has led the Skyward Covenant for 30 cycles. Some think it is time for new leadership. They chose violence instead of proper challenge, and he crashed here. While running from them, his shuttle was damaged. He made emergency landing on your world. We tracked the debris field, but lost his signal in the storm. It took days to locate him. Torvin leaned forward. You understand now. He is not simply important. He is everything to our people. Without Commander Devin, the Covenant would fracture into wearing factions. Millions could die. Owen looked at Blue, who was watching the conversation quietly. He just looked like someone who needed help. That is what I do not understand about humans, Torvin said, genuine confusion in his voice. You see need and respond without calculating benefit. It makes no tactical sense. Maybe that's why it works. To made a soft sound. Both Owen and Torvin looked at him. The dragons spoke slowly, and Torvin translated with obvious reluctance. Commander says humans understand something dragons have forgot. That power without compassion is meaningless. That true strength is knowing when to help instead of harm. He got all that from a week on my porch. Owen smiled. He says you taught it without trying. That every action you took showed him what leadership should be. Torvin shook his head. He wants to study your people, learn what makes humans different. We're not that special, Owen protested. Plenty of humans would have turned Blue away. We're called security immediately. I just did what felt right. Yes, Torrin said quietly, and that is what makes you remarkable. The three of them sat in silence for a while. Owen drank his coffee. Deven dozed in the afternoon sun. Torvin watched them both with an expression somewhere between bewilderment and respect. The vehicle approached on the road. Colonial security again, probably responding to the fleet arrival and departure. Owen sighed and stood up. Let me handle this. They'll want explanations. Torvin stood. As well should I stay here, keep blue company? Owen grabbed his jacket. I'll explain that the scary alien fleet is actually protective, not threatening. That should go over well. As he walked to meet the security vehicle, Owen heard Deven and Torvin talking in their language. The tone was different now. Less formal, more like old friends catching up after long separation. Good. Torvin needed to understand that Deven was safe here, truly safe in a way that had nothing to do with weapons or guards. Stevens got out of the vehicle, looking exhausted. Mr. Bridger, please tell me you have some good news about the situation. The dragons are friendly. Their leader has been staying with me while he heals from an assassination attempt. They're protective of him, not hostile to us. Stephen stared at him. You're telling me you've been harboring the leader of an alien civilization for over a week, and you're just mentioning this now? Well, I didn't know he was their leader until today. Oh my God. Stephen sat down on the hood of his vehicle. The colonial governor is going to have a stroke. The media is going insane, and you're telling me this is all because you helped an injured dragon? Pretty much, yes. Stevens laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. Only you, Owen, only you could accidentally create a first contact situation by being nice to a stray animal. He's not a stray, Owen corrected, and he's definitely not an animal, right? Sorry, the leader of the Skyward Covenant. Stevens rubbed his face. I need to report this to the governor. Are you willing to meet with colonial authorities? Maybe help smooth over relations. Owen glanced back at his porch where Deven and Torvin sat together in the fading light. Sure, but they come here. Blue isn't up for traveling yet. Of course not. Why would anything about this be normal? Stevens climbed back into his vehicle. I'll arrange it for tomorrow. Try not to start an intergalactic incident before then. I'll do my best, Owen promised, though he was pretty sure he had already started one. The colonial governor arrived with an entire convoy, 6 vehicles, 2 dozen officials, and enough cameras to film a documentary. Owen watched them pull up to his farm with a sense of resignation. He had known this was coming, but it did not make the circus any more appealing. Deven and Torrin sat on the porch like 2 old friends. The sight of them together, relaxed and unbothered, seemed to confuse the arriving officials. Governor Patricia Walsh stepped out of her vehicle, looking ready for confrontation, only to find the galaxy's most powerful dragon commander drinking water from a bucket while Owen's guest dragon lounged nearby. Mr. Bridger, Walsh said, approaching cautiously, we need to discuss the situation. Morning. Governor wants some coffee. Owen gestured to the pot he had prepared. Got plenty made. This is not a social call. We have serious concerns about. She stopped as Dreven turned his attention to her. Those silver eyes held intelligence that made it impossible to dismiss him as an animal. Walsh's prepared speech died in her throat. Hello, Devin inclined his head politely. Torin activated his translator. Commander Devin greets the leader of the human colony. He thanks you for allowing him sanctuary within your territory. Walsh recovered her composure. Commander, we appreciate your presence, but we have questions about the fleet. Orbit, your military presence is making our people nervous. The fleet is there for protection only, Torvin translated. For Devin, Commander Devin has no hostile intent toward your colony. However, there are those within the Covenant who wish him dead. The fleet ensures no assassins can reach him here, I see. Walsh glanced at Owen. And you were aware of this when you took him in? I was aware he was hurt, Owen said. Rest I learned later, Mr. Bridger. With all due respect, you may have put our entire colony at risk. If those assassins come here, then they deal with me and the fleet. Devin's words came through the translator, firm and commanding. This human showed me kindness when he had every reason to turn away. He asked for nothing, expected nothing. I will not allow harm to come to him or his people because of my presence. Walsh sat down on the porch steps, her official demeanor cracking. This is unprecedented. We're a small agricultural colony. We're not equipped for this kind of attention. I understand, Torrin said, speaking for himself now, which is why I propose a solution. Allow us to establish a temporary base near the colony. We will provide security and protection until Commander Devin is healed. In exchange, the Covenant will open trade negotiations with your government. The officials behind Walsh started whispering excitedly. Trade with an advanced alien civilization could transform Thornwood Ridge from a struggling farm colony into a prosperous hub. Walsh's eyes narrowed. What kind of trade? Technology exchange, medical advances, agricultural improvements. The Covenant has resources your people could benefit from. Torvin looked at Devin, who made an approving sound. Commander Devin believes humans have value beyond simple transactions. He wishes to establish formal relations because Owen helped him. Walsh sounded skeptical. Because Owen helped him without knowing who he was. Torrin corrected. Because when presented with danger, your colonist chose compassion. That suggests humanity possesses qualities worth engaging with. Owen felt uncomfortable being the subject of so much attention. I just did what anyone should do, but they would not. Devin's translated words were soft. We have contacted hundreds of species across the galaxy. All saw us as threats, resources, or obstacles. None saw us as people who might need help. Your human did. Walsh studied Owen for a long moment. You've put us in an interesting position, Mr. Bridger. The publicity alone will change everything. Here, we'll have media from across human space wanting interviews, diplomats, scientists. This farm will become famous. I don't want fame, Owen said flatly. I want Blue to heal and go home safely. Blue? Walsh looked confused. What I call him seemed rude to keep saying the dragon. Owen refilled his coffee cup. Governor, I appreciate the concerns, but Blue isn't leaving until he's ready, and I'm not changing how I treat him just because politicians got involved. He's welcome on my porch as long as he wants to stay. One of the officials behind Walsh stepped forward. Sir, you can't make unilateral decisions about alien relations. There are protocols. He is on my property. Owen interrupted. And unless Blue is breaking Some law I don't know about, he's my guest. Protocols don't change that. Deven made a rumbling sound that might have been laughter. Torvin smiled, shown a lot of teeth. Commander Deven says he likes your spirit, human Owen. You do not bend easily. Stubbornness is more like it, Walsh muttered, but there was a hint of respect in her voice. Fine. Commander Deven may remain here during his recovery, but I'm assigning a liaison to coordinate between our government and your fleet, General Torvin. We need communication channels that don't run through a stubborn farmer. Agreed, Torrance said. The meeting continued for another hour with officials asking questions and taking notes. Deven answered what he could. Though he tired quickly, Owen noticed the dragon's energy flagging and called an end to things. That's enough for today. Blue needs rest. Walsh stood up. We and LT, Unc and GT, LL arrange another meeting in a few days. Commander, thank you for your patience with our questions. Deven nodded graciously as the convoy departed. Owen felt the tension drain from his shoulders. Torrin remained behind, having apparently decided to stay near Deven full time. Now the general had moved his ship closer and set up a small camp in Owen's field. You handled that well, Torrin said once they were alone. Just told the truth. Owen began cleaning up the coffee cups, though I expect the real trouble starts now. Once word spreads beyond the colony. He was right. Within 2 days, the first news ships arrived, reporters from a dozen human worlds, all wanting the story of the farmer who befriended an alien leader. Owen refused every interview request. He put up barriers at his property line and stopped answering his communicator unless it was someone he actually knew. The attention became suffocating. Tourists tried to sneak onto his land for photos. Entrepreneurs offered him ridiculous sums for endorsement deals. Religious groups declared him everything from a saint to a heretic. Through it all, Owen kept his routine. He tended his farm in the morning, sat with Deven in the afternoon, and ignored the chaos beyond his property line. Deven grew stronger each day. His wings healed cleanly, and he began testing them with short flights around the farm. Torvin watched these exercises with visible relief. Owen knew it meant Deven would be leaving soon, and found himself sad about that. He had grown used to the dragon's presence, their quiet conversations, through Torvin's translations, the way Deven would help with farm work without being asked. And on the 10th day, 3 more dragon ships arrived, not military vessels this time, but diplomatic ones, ornate and decorated with symbols Owen did not recognize. They landed in Torvin's camp, and a delegation of elderly dragons emerged. Their scales showed age in ways Owen had not seen before, dulled colors and scarring that spoke of long lives. Torvin met them with formal bows. The elder council, he explained to Owen, they have come to see Commander Deven for themselves. More politics? Owen asked. Always politics. Poor of inside, but necessary ones. The council must verify the commander's health and mental state. Some question whether his experience here has compromised his judgment. Compromised? How? By making him too sympathetic to human, too willing to trust species outside the covenant. Torrin watched the elders approach the porch. They fear he has become weak. Owen bristled at that. Blue isn't weak. He survived an assassination attempt and fought his way to safety while badly injured. That's not weakness, I agree, but the council Sees compassion as vulnerability, Torin. Activated his translator as the elders. Reach the porch, let us see how this unfolds. The lead elder spoke in deep, resonant tones. Age had not diminished. The authority in that voice, Diven, responded calmly, his posture respectful, but not submissive. The conversation continued in their language for several minutes while Owen stood by awkwardly. Finally, one of the elders turned to Owen through their own translator, and aged voice spoke in measured words. Human Owen Bridger, we have heard much about you. Commander Diven speaks highly of your character. Thank you, Owen said. Unsure what else to say, we must ask you questions. Answer truthfully, for we will no deception. The elders' eyes, milky with age but still sharp, fixed on Owen. What do you want from the Skyward Covenant? Nothing. You harbor our commander and expect no reward. I didn't know he was your commander when I helped him, and even if I had known, my answer would be the same. He needed help, that's all that mattered. The elders conferred among themselves in low voices. Their ancient scales caught the light as they moved, creating patterns Owen could not interpret. Diven remained quiet, letting the council conduct their investigation. Owen noticed the commander's tail flicking slightly, a sign of tension he had learned to recognize. The lead elder spoke again. You claim to want nothing, yet you have gained much fame, attention. Your colony now has value it lacked before. These are not small things. I didn't ask for any of that, Owen said firmly. In fact, I'd be happy if all the reporters and tourists went away. They're trampling my crops and bothering my neighbors. Another elder, this one with pale gold scales, stepped forward. Perhaps you seek future favors, a debt the commander will owe you. Blue doesn't owe me anything. Friends help each other without keeping score. Friends, the word seemed to surprise them. The elders exchanged glances. You consider Commander Diven a friend? Yes. Owen looked at Diven. He's been good company, helps with the work, doesn't complain about my cooking. That's friendship where I come from. Diven made a sound, soft and warm. The elders noticed their expressions shifting to something Owen could not read. The lead elder spoke directly to Diven in their language. The conversation that followed was lengthy, with Diven responding at length to each question. His tone grew more passionate as he spoke, gesturing toward Owen and the farm. Torin leaned close to Owen and whispered a rough translation. The commander is defending you. He tells them you represent what the Covenant has lost over centuries of isolation, that humans still understand the simple truth that helping others is its own reward. I'm not that special, Owen muttered. To them you are revolutionary. The debate continued for nearly an hour. Owen fetched water for everyone and tried to stay out of the way. The elders were clearly divided on something, their voices rising and falling with emotion. Finally, the lead elder raised a claw, demanding silence. He turned to Owen with an expression that might have been respect. Human Owen Bridger, the council has reached a decision. Commander Diven will return with us to the Covenant in 3 days. Once we are satisfied with his recovery, however, he has made a request we cannot ignore. What request? Owen asked. He wishes to establish you as the first human ambassador to the Skyward Covenant, to create a permanent bond between our people, with your farm as the symbolic heart of that relationship. Owen blinked. I'm sorry, what? You would Retain ownership of your land, the elder continued, but it would also serve as neutral ground for meetings between humans and dragons, a place where both species can learn from each other. I'm a farmer, not a diplomat. Commander Devin believes that is exactly why you are qualified. The elder's tone softens slightly. You showed him that power is not the only measure of worth, that simple decency transcends species. He wants others to learn this lesson. Owen looked at Dreven, who watched him with those silver eyes. The dragon made a questioning sound, clearly asking to consider the offer. Torvin translated the full weight of what Devin was saying. The commander knows this is a burden. He knows you value your quiet life, but he believes you can teach both our species something important, that you can bridge the gap between us in ways politicians and generals cannot. What about my farm? My work, we would provide resources to help. The pale gold elder said your crops would still grow, your life would continue, but you would also host visitors, facilitate conversations, show others what you showed the commander. Owen sat down heavily on his porch steps. This was not what he had signed up for when he helped a wounded dragon. He had just wanted to do the right thing, to help someone in need. Now they wanted him to become a symbol, a bridge between civilizations. But looking at Devin, seeing the hope in the dragon's expression, Owen realized something. This mattered to him, not the politics or the prestige, but the simple fact that he had made a difference to someone who carried the weight of entire worlds on his shoulders. If Devin thought Owen could help others understand what they had learned together, maybe it was worth trying. I have conditions, Owen said. Finally, the elders waited. I stay in control of my property, no military installations unless there's actual danger, no turning my home into a tourist attraction. People who come here come to lure and talk, not to gawk and take pictures. Agreed, the lead elder said, and Blue can visit whenever he wants. No formal appointments or scheduling. If he needs a place to rest or just wants to talk, my porch is always available. Devin made a pleased rumble. The elders nodded. Finally, the media leaves me alone. I'll do this ambassador thing, but I won't become a celebrity. No interviews unless they're actually about improving human-dragon relations. We cannot control human media, the elder pointed out. No, but you can make it clear that harassing me means no access to the covenant. That should discourage most of them. Owen stood up and crossed his arms. Those are my terms. Take them or find another ambassador. The elders conferred briefly. The lead elder turned back with what might have been a smile. Commander Devin chose well. You have the strength to stand firm even when offered everything. Very well, human Owen. Your terms are acceptable. They spent the rest of the day working out details. Owen learned that the Skyward Covenant was vast, encompassing hundreds of worlds and billions of dragons. They had been isolationist for generations, viewing younger species as beneath their notice. Devin's near-death experience and Owen's response had shaken that worldview. We thought ourselves beyond needing help, the pale gold elder admitted during a quiet moment that our age and power made us invulnerable. Commander Devin's survival proves otherwise. Sometimes the young teach the old. As evening fell, the elders departed to their ships. Devin remained on the porch with Owen and Torvin. The dragon seemed lighter somehow, as if a burden had lifted. Torin prepared a meal for everyone, having learned Owen's cooking methods over the past weeks. You did not have to accept, Torin said. Passing Owen plate, the council would have been disappointed, but they would not have forced you, I know, but Blue asked, and I trust his judgment. Owen ate slowly. Besides, maybe it's time humans and dragons actually got to know each other, might prevent future assassination attempts if everyone's talking instead of plotting. Deven made a long statement in his language. Torvin listened, then translated with obvious emotion. Commander Deven says you have taught him what leadership truly means. Not commanding from above, but standing beside those you lead. Not demanding respect, but earning it through action. He says he will be a better leader because of the time spent on this porch. He was already a good leader, Owen said. He just forgot for a while. Sometimes you need to step back from the big picture to remember why it matters. They sat together as stars emerged overhead. The orbital fleet was visible as tiny lights moving in formation. Owen wondered how many dragons were up there, watching over their commander. How many lives depended on Deven's safe return. It seemed impossible that such weight could rest on one person's shoulders, yet Deven carried it without complaint. 3 more days, Torin said quietly, then we must return to the Covenant capital. There are political situations that require the commander's attention. He'll be ready, Owen said. Wings are almost fully healed. He's been flying longer distances each day. I did not mean physically ready. Torvin looked at Deven. I meant ready to leave this place. He's been happy here, I think happier than I have seen him in many cycles. He can always come back. That was part of the deal. Yes, but it will not be the same. Once he returns, he becomes commander. Deven again, not simply Blue the dragon. On Owen's porch, Torin sighed. Sometimes I wonder if we lose ourselves in our duties, if the roles we play become prisons we cannot escape. Owen thought about that maybe, but roles are just expectations. Who we are underneath doesn't change unless we let it. Blue will go back to being Commander Deven, but he'll remember being Blue too. That's worth something. Deven had been listening to their conversation. He spoke briefly and Torvin laughed. The commander says, you are wiser than you look, Farmer Owen. I'll take that as a compliment. The night deepened. Eventually, Torin excused himself to check on the perimeter sensors he had installed around the property. Owen and Deven remained on the porch, comfortable. In the silence between them, no words were needed. They had moved beyond language into a deeper understanding. Owen remembered the storm, the wounded dragon on his porch, the simple decision to help. He had not known then that this moment would come, that he would sit beside an alien leader as an equal, at a friend, watching stars he could not name and dreaming of bridges between worlds. 3 more days, Owen said aloud. Deven made a soft sound of acknowledgement. 3 more days of peace before duty called them both back to larger responsibilities, but for now they had the night, the porch, and the quiet companionship of 2 beings who had found common ground in the most unlikely place. The morning of departure arrived with clear skies and gentle wind. Owen had been awake since before dawn, unable to sleep. He made coffee and sat on his porch, watching Deven perform one final flight test over the fields. The dragon's wings cut through the air with power and grace, fully healed now, No sign remained of the wounded creature who had collapsed here. Weeks ago, Torin emerged from his camp, already wearing his formal armor for the journey home. The general looked both relieved and melancholy. He flies well, Torin said, joining Owen on the porch. Better than before the injury. Perhaps good food and rest will do. That, Owen replied. He did not mention the tightness in his chest, watching Deven prepare to leave. It was foolish to feel sad. They had both known this day would come. Deven belonged with his people leading the Covenant. Owen's life was here on this farm, now with the added responsibility of being an ambassador. Deven landed gracefully in front of the porch. He folded his wings and approached, moving with the confidence of someone fully restored. His silver eyes found Owen's, and a moment of understanding passed between them. No words needed, just acknowledgement of what they had shared. The Elder Council's ships descended from orbit, landing in formation near Torvin's vessel. This time they brought an honor guard, dozens of dragons in ceremonial armor. The display was meant to show respect for Deven's recovery, recognition of Owen's new role. It felt excessive to Owen, but he understood the symbolism mattered to the dragons. The elders disembarked and approached. The lead elder bowed to Deven first, then to Owen. Human Owen Bridger, today begins a new chapter between our peoples. The Skyward Covenant officially recognizes you as ambassador of First Contact. Your words will carry weight in our councils. Your wisdom will guide our understanding of humanity. I'm still just a farmer. Owen said, don't expect miracles. You have already provided one. The pale gold elder said, you reminded us that kindness exists beyond our borders. That is miracle enough. They presented Owen with a formal treaty document, ornately decorated with symbols from both human and dragon cultures. Governor Walsh arrived to witness the signing, bringing her own officials and enough cameras to document everything. Owen signed with indicated, feeling the weight of history in each stroke of the pen. Walsh signed. Next, representing the colonial government and by extension humanity's interests, Mr. Bridger, you've done something remarkable here. Our people will remember this day. Let's hope they remember the right parts, Owen said. The helping, not the politics. Deven stepped forward and silence fell over the gathering. When he spoke, his voice carried authority that made even the ancient elders straighten. Torin translated his voice proud. I am Commander Deven, High Leader of the Skyward Covenant. For 30 cycles I have led my people through war and peace, expansion and consolidation. I believed leadership meant strength, control, the ability to command and be obeyed without question. He paused, looking directly at Owen. This human taught me otherwise. He showed me that true strength is knowing when to be gentle, that real power comes from lifting others up, not standing above them. He asked nothing of me, except that I heal and be well in a galaxy of transactions and negotiations. He offered simple compassion. The translation caught in Torvin's throat slightly. He cleared it and continued. Therefore, I declare this place sacred ground to the Skyward Covenant. This farm, this porch, this human who sheltered me. Let be known that any who harm Owen Bridge or harm me personally, any who threaten this place, threaten all of us. And let it also be known that the doors of the Covenant are open to humanity, so that others may learn what I learned here. The assembled dragons raised their voices in a harmonic sound that vibrated through Owen's chest. Song of agreement, Torin explained. Quietly, the highest honor they could give. Deven approached Owen one last time. He lowered his massive head until they were eye to eye. Owen reached out and placed his hand on the dragon's snout, feeling the warmth of living scales beneath his palm. "Thank you, Blue," Owen said softly, "for trusting me, for being my friend." Demeda sound gentle and filled with emotion. No translation needed. Owen understood. The farewell ceremony took another hour. Officials gave speeches, treaties were formalized, plans were made for the first diplomatic exchange visits. Owen endured it all with patience, knowing it was necessary, even if it felt like too much attention. Finally, the ships prepared for departure. Deven boarded the command vessel with Torin at his side. The general paused at the ramp and looked back at Owen. "He will return," Torin called out. "When duties allow, he will come back to this porch. That is his promise to you." "I'll keep coffee ready," Owen replied. The ships lifted off in perfect formation, rising through the atmosphere until they became points of light against the blue sky. Owen watched until they vanished completely, then sat down in his chair with a heavy sigh. The farm suddenly felt very empty. Governor Walsh approached. "You all right, Mr. Bridger? I will be just need a moment. Take all the time you need. And thank you truly for what you've done here, not just for our colony but for humanity as a whole." She paused, "Though I have to ask, do you really plan to continue farming?" "Why wouldn't I? An ambassador now, that comes with responsibilities, resources. You could afford to hire people to run the farm while you focus on diplomatic work." Owen shook his head. "The farm is why this worked." Blue didn't bond with an ambassador or a politician. He bonded with a farmer who helped him because it was right. "If I stop being that person, the whole thing falls apart." Walsh smiled. "Fair point. Well, if you need anything, let us know. The colonial government fully supports your new role." She left with her entourage, and finally Owen was alone. He looked at the empty space where Deven had rested for weeks. The blankets were still there, along with the bucket that had served as a water dish, small reminders of an extraordinary time. Owen spent the afternoon working his fields, finding comfort in familiar tasks. The crops needed tending regardless of interstellar politics. Life continued its steady rhythm. As the sun began setting, he heard an unfamiliar sound. Overhead of a small dragon, barely larger than a horse, circled his farm. Nervously, its scales were deep green, with hints of copper. Young Owen guessed from the uncertain flying pattern. The dragon landed awkwardly near his porch. Clearly exhausted, Owen approached. "Slowly, you look like you've had a rough day." The young dragon's eyes were gold and filled with fear. It wore translator collar, though the device looked damaged. Static-filled words emerged. "Please help. Lost, hurt." Owen saw burns along the dragon's wings, fresh injuries from what looked like weapons fire. Another one running from something, another one who needed shelter. "Easy now," Owen said, using the same gentle tone he had with Deven. "You're safe here. Let me see those wounds." The young dragon's eyes widened in surprise, as if it had not expected a human to offer help. Owen smiled and fetched his medical supplies. Some things never changed. There would always be someone who needed help, and Owen would always be the kind of person who provided it to as he cleaned the dragon's wounds. Owen heard vehicles approaching, news of the young dragon's arrival had already spread. More attention, more complications, but looking at the grateful expression in those gold eyes, Owen knew he would handle it the same way he handled everything else, with patience, kindness, and a firm belief that doing the right thing was its own reward. The young dragon relaxed under his care, tension draining from its body. Owen worked steadily, already planning what supplies he would need, how long recovery might take. His porch had become a sanctuary for wounded dragons. That was fine with him. Let them come. Let them learn that humans could be trusted, that compassion existed in the galaxy beyond politics and power. Somewhere above, traveling toward distant stars, Deven would hear about this. Owen imagined the commander smiling, pleased that his friend had not changed despite everything, that the farmer who had helped him without knowing who he was would help another dragon the same way. The sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Owen settled into his chair beside the young dragon who had fallen into exhausted sleep. Tomorrow would bring questions, complications, maybe even danger if whoever had hurt this dragon came looking, but tonight there was just a Porch, a sleeping dragon, and a man who understood that true strength came not from avoiding difficulty, but from facing it with an open heart. Owen looked up at the stars, at the vast darkness where Deven's fleet traveled. Take care of yourself, Blue, he said quietly, and come back when you can. There's always room on this porch for a friend. The young dragon stirred in its sleep, moving closer to Owen's chair. He reached out and rested his hand on its scales, offering the same wordless comfort he had given Deven. Some things transcended species, language, even the vast distances between stars. Kindness was universal. Compassion knew no boundaries. And on a small farm on Thornwood Ridge, under an alien sky filled with possibilities, Owen Bridger had proven that the simplest truths were often the most powerful. He had sheltered the sky's greatest leader, but more importantly, he had shown that greatness could be found in anyone willing to help someone in need. That lesson would echo across the galaxy, changing how species saw each other, opening doors that have been closed for generations, all because one human had looked at a wounded dragon and seen not a threat or an opportunity, but simply someone who needed help, and in helping, he had changed everything. Owen smiled and closed his eyes, content despite the complexities his life had become. Tomorrow he would deal with the young dragon's recovery. Tonight he would rest, knowing he had done what his mother taught him long ago, that he had been kind when kindness was needed, and that more than treaties or politics or fame was what truly mattered. The stars wheeled overhead, silent witnesses to the small farm where bridges between worlds were built, one act of compassion at a time, and on the porch where a great leader had once found shelter, another dragon slept safely, cared for by human who understood that everyone, no matter how powerful or how humble, deserved to be treated with dignity and grace. The galaxy would never be quite the same, and it all started with a storm, a wounded dragon, and a man who chose kindness over fear. That was legacy enough for any